I moved into my ex-husband and his wife's house, pretending to be his cousin. I come from a poor family, and I've never been ashamed of my roots. I lived for years with a man I considered my husband. He was the director of a company, my family knew him well, and his family knew me too. In my country, once a woman is formally introduced to a man's family, the couple is considered married. A few years later, we had 2 beautiful children. Everything was going well until the day the company he worked for was accused of tax fraud. The whole company collapsed, and all employees, including my husband, were laid off. We lost everything in the blink of an eye. The comfortable life we had was gone, and we had to stick together with only my small handbag shop as support. A few months passed, and the business wasn't doing well. My husband eventually received his severance pay after a tough fight, but it wasn't enough to maintain a decent lifestyle for long. Months went by, and he was still unemployed. The situation became unbearable. It's really difficult to find a good job in my country. He then suggested using his remaining money to travel abroad to look for better work, for the sake of our family. I agreed, because I completely trusted him. He traveled to join one of his cousins in another country and quickly found work. He began sending money each month to help with the kids' schooling. Things were going well at first, until about a year later, everything changed. He stopped calling as often and barely sent any money to help with expenses. I was really worried and let him know how I felt. He told me things weren't going as smoothly as before and asked me to be patient. But he grew more and more distant. We no longer laughed together, and our conversations became short and cold. I talked to my sister about it. She advised me to be patient. It was possible he was going through something tough over there. I took her advice, but things kept getting worse. He could go 6 whole months without checking in on me or the kids. When he finally called after 6 months, we would just argue and hang up on bad terms. One day he called me early in the morning and said we needed to talk that evening about something very important. I was so anxious I couldn't eat anything the entire day. That evening, he called, and the words he said felt unreal. He admitted that even though we were seen as husband and wife, had children, and he'd made promises before leaving the country, he was tired of hiding the truth. I begged him to tell me what was going on because I was his wife and he could tell me anything. Then he said it. He didn't love me anymore and didn't want to waste my time. He said he already had a new woman he loved and told me clearly that I should move on with my life. After that call, I felt like I was dreaming. It took 2 full days for me to fully realize it was all real. What was I going to do with my life now that he'd abandoned me? I called him back and begged him to at least keep his promise to help bring me to the country where he lived. I told him I understood that he had moved on, and I wouldn't interfere in his new life. He refused, saying I'd be a disturbance in his home and there would be no one to take care of the kids. I insisted, told him I just needed help getting there, and I'd manage the rest myself. I lied and said I had a cousin who was ready to host me. I begged him to make one last effort, to help the mother of his children so I could build a better future for them. That day, he hung up on me with a firm no. I swallowed my pain and kept negotiating with him for months. I told him it would be the last thing I'd ever ask of him, and that if I made it, he wouldn't even need to support the kids anymore, because I'd be able to take care of everything. Eventually, I convinced him to help. I left the kids with my mother and traveled. Everything went smoothly, and I finally arrived in the country where my husband was living. On the day I arrived, I called him and asked if he could come pick me up at the airport because my cousin wasn't answering her phone. I told him maybe she'd changed her mind now that I was actually here, and that I didn't know what to do. Of course, that was all a lie. I never had any cousin waiting to host me. Though he was furious, he still came to the airport and picked me up. He brought me to his house and introduced me to his wife as his cousin, someone he considered a sister. He explained to her that he couldn't leave me stranded after the woman who was supposed to take me in had abandoned me. His wife was upset, saying he should have told her beforehand, especially since I was a grown woman, not a child. He apologized and told her I'd only be staying for a few days, until I could find another place. She eventually gave in, and that's how I ended up living in my ex-husband's house with his wife, pretending to be his cousin.